Hey everybody, the Next Lawyer Up podcast is sponsored by Bond & Botus. You can find us at bondandbotus.com. That's BONDANDBOTES.com. We practice in the areas of consumer bankruptcy, consumer law, including collection and telephone harassment, credit report issues, tax issues, security clearance issues, Social Security disability, and VA disability. So, with that, let's start the show. I will be speaking today with Derek Simpson. Derek is an attorney with Warren & Simpson trial lawyers located here in Huntsville, Alabama. They practice in an old restored building, which is right downtown in downtown Huntsville, right across from the Madison County Courthouse. And the building is what you would expect. I mean, it's phenomenal. Old world. It's somewhere in the 1800s. In fact, I'll ask Derek about that. But restored and just beautiful. In fact, these guys do so much trial work. They've even got a mock courtroom in their basement. Derek practices with attorney Barton Warren, and they have been law partners for as long as I've known both of them. And they're both absolutely exceptional lawyers. Derek also represents athletes as a sports agent. That's one of his other areas of practice. And, you know, what I always tell athletes, if we run across athletes in our practice, I'm like, you know, look to, if you need a sports agent, look to Derek Simpson. I mean, he just takes great care of these athletes, like he does with all his clients. Both Derek and Barton have a very thriving, impressive personal injury plaintiff's practice. Both of them do a lot outside of the practice of law. For instance, I mean, Derek gives a lot back to the community, doing a lot of different things with Madison County Volunteer Legal Program. And also, he does a lot with Huntsville Madison County Bar Association. In fact, he is I believe it's the incoming bar president for this next upcoming year, either this year or the next year. I don't know. It seems like those are 2 or 3 or 4 year positions. So I can tell you a lot more about Derek, but it's probably going to be better for all of us if you just hear him and hear his own voice getting started here. So with that said, let's get started. All right, Derek. Well, welcome.
Oh, it's great to be here. What an honor. Thank you.
Well, no, man, I really appreciate you coming. So, and it's, you know, what I always tell folks, especially with a lot of the people I talk to are friends of mine, close friends. So it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. This really is. This is great. I've been looking forward to this for a while.
Well, and the good news is I kind of call it lunch without the lunch. I don't need the lunch, right?
That's exactly right.
So I kind of want to start. So you've been practicing here in Huntsville for how long?
Since 95. So what, 21 years? Yeah, 22 years almost.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems like yesterday.
Sometimes it does. Sometimes that's right. Yeah.
I know a lot. I don't know a lot.
I know. Well, I know I've been practicing long enough that I'm not considered a young lawyer anymore. So it's like, you know, it's not cute anymore. Like, he doesn't know what he's doing.
I'll tell you, right, when I saw you today, you got the long hair. Right. Believe me, I wish I had that kind of hair.
Well, I'm getting a haircut tomorrow.
That's funny. Well, kind of let's talk about your history. So you're practiced here in Huntsville, born and raised, right?
Born and raised in Huntsville. Always wanted to be a lawyer. My dad was the district attorney in Madison County, and back then they just tried cases about every week. And so I would go up and sit in this Madison County courthouse and watch trials from beginning to end. And it's what I always wanted to do.
Did you critique your dad?
Well, you know what I did?
Hey, Dad, listen, we need to talk. You're 5 or 6. Right?
You know what I used to do is keep up with the objections. If he was winning the objections, and if it was sustained,
right.
So after the guy was like, "You won 5 objections," you know, stuff like that.
Did your son or did your dad say, "Son, you would be a poor juror"?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so your dad practiced law his entire professional life, right?
He practiced law here in Huntsville, so I kind of grew up around it and loved it. Went to law school, graduated in 95, and I really, my goal was and dream was to just come back and practice law with him and try cases, and I got to do that, which was great. And I practiced law with him until he retired in 2003.
Well, how long was your dad the district attorney here?
All right, so he was almost a full 12 years. So from 1969 till 1980.
Right.
Yeah. And
so pretty much through your youth.
Yeah, all my youth was him being the district attorney, and he tried just.
Did you ever try to get your friends out of trouble?
No,
Hopefully they weren't in that kind of trouble that the DA was involved, right?
I wasn't old enough. My friends weren't old enough.
It was more of a broken window from the baseball, right?
That's right. That's right.
But and how far did you guys live from Huntsville? I mean, were you?
We lived. I grew up on Valley Hill Golf Course, so
Okay.
I grew up on Meyer Vista, which
Right.
and our house backed up to Valley Hill, and we grew up next to the greatest neighbors in the world, the O'Hallorans. They had 15 kids, eight boys and 7 girls. So we just played all day.
That's funny.
It was great.
Now, and I've seen you at Valley Hill periodically. You're a decent golfer.
No, I'm. Listen, I'm like the last kid pick for kickball. It's just like, we'll take Derek. Yeah,
That's
I'm awful.
funny.
I mean, I thought I was a good athlete growing up, but golf has just kicked my butt.
Well, something I know about you that I want to get into. I know you walked on at Alabama, but before we get there, so where'd you go to high school?
I went to Grissom. High School and graduated in 1987. And football wise, I could have gone to some small schools. I think I went on like a recruiting trip to Austin Peay.
Right. Where's Austin Peay? Is that?
It's in Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then I just said, I'm gonna go to the place where I want to play.
Right.
And if football doesn't work out, I'll be at the college I want to. So I made the decision. Looking back, I can't believe I did it, but I made the decision to walk on at Alabama. And as Dabo Sweeney said, who also walked on at Alabama, he said he crawled on at Alabama, and that's probably what I did. But then I walked off. So
well, let's do this. So did your dad go to Alabama? Is he?
My dad, incredible story is my dad got kicked out of high school in 10th grade, lied about his age, and joined the Air Force.
Right.
Went over and lived overseas. Came back when he was 20. Then went to college at what was Howard College and now is Sanford College. But he was a police officer. Worked his way through school.
He was a police officer while going to school?
Yeah, a police officer in Birmingham.
Was he an MP in the military?
Nope. He just came home and decided to be a police officer, became a police officer, working in downtown Birmingham, and worked at night, went to schools during the day. And
Wow.
Met my mother, who was a telephone operator, who also worked kind of the night shift.
Well, that's a rough way to go through school,
It is.
man.
Yeah. And then he had an interview with the admissions at Vanderbilt Law School.
Wow.
And he got a letter from Vanderbilt that said that he got in, and nobody in his family graduated from college, much less law school, and he passed.
Plus, he would look kind of bleak when he left school in the 10th grade, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And then he went to law school at Vanderbilt. So he was at Howard or Sanford, and then Vanderbilt Law.
Wow.
And I would have loved to go on the Vanderbilt.
Sure.
But
Sure.
I didn't have
In-state,
my dad's grade.
Yeah, in-state Alabama looked pretty good.
That's right.
All right, so let's go to high school. So you're in high school. What sports do you play?
I played football. That was my main deal, and absolutely loved it. Loved everything about it.
Now, what position? You don't look like a lineman.
No, I was a defensive. I was a defensive back. So it was Coach Robinson's close to his last year,
Right.
and John Anderson was my defensive backs coach.
And John Anderson's a great guy. I mean, obviously I'm not from here, but my boys all played at Grissom, and John Anderson's name is Legion.
Absolutely, it is.
It really is for football.
And Coach Cicero, who was the wrestling coach, and they were so young, and I thought they were so old back then.
Right,
but they were like in their late 20s.
That's funny.
And so. I ran track also, and then I wrestled my last year.
So I'm assuming you're pretty fast if you were a defensive back.
I thought so back then, but
like 4.3 40 speed.
No, nowhere close to that. And I'm trying to think the last time I even had to sprint. So I don't even know what Right. You said what I could run the 40 in now, but it was I was fast for me, you know,
right.
Yeah, for my size.
Right. Did you have some interceptions? I'm assuming in high school. That's the glory.
I did. Listen, this is, I never get to tell a sports story on myself, so I'll tell this, but they keep up with your interceptions, and I had 15 interceptions for 2 years of my junior and senior year. And my goal
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah. So in high school,
I don't like to brag, but
right. So I told my goal in high school is that I want to have my name in the sports page when I'm 30. That means I'm a professional athlete. That means, you know, so I always told my parents, I'm going to have my name in the sports page when I'm 30. And lo and behold, I was about 31, 32, and I was reading the newspaper, and it said John Summerall of Grissom High School just broke Derek Simpson's interceptions record, and I was in the 30s. So I was like, so my name did get in the paper when I was 30.
No, and I know the Summeralls. I mean, that's a good family.
Yeah, and he's a coach. He's a coach at Troy State and doing well. And
smart guy.
Yeah, and I had to call and congratulate him.
That's funny. You think in a parallel universe, he was telling his folk, hey, this guy just called me.
That's right.
I thought this record was more impressive.
That's right. I love it.
That's funny. So, all right. So now you know out of high school you want to go to law school.
I know I knew as a kid I wanted to go to high school, and I told my dad. My dad videotaped way back when it was like a Kodak camera before there was video cameras, and you would only get like 3 minutes of film. And I mean, he has me on film saying that, Dad, I want to practice law with you, and I want to call it, you know, Simpson and Simpson. And, you know, so that's all I wanted to do my whole life. And so coming out of high school, I walked on at Alabama, but my degree was in political science, in history, and English, and
go straight to law school. Do not pass go.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And what happened to me is I did not get into law school the first year I applied, and I just, you know, I thought, what am I going to do?
Well, let's back up. So you're now your first year at Alabama, and you know you got to get grades for law school.
No, I have to get grades for law school.
But walking on, I mean, I would think of the list of 15 things don't do, that's got to be number one.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so when I got finished with my first semester, and I'll never forget this feeling I had when I got my grades, and I was talking to my dad, and he said, just very, you know, serious, but in a very nice manner, he said, I thought you wanted to go to law school. And I said, I did. And he was like, not with those grades.
So your 4.340 speed's not going to get us.
That's right. So I had to make a decision, and I just said, I've got my future does not, you know, it's going to be on the football field, unfortunately. So
well, when you walk on at Alabama, so I assume you start that summer after your senior year.
I left like soon, right after graduation.
And who's the coach at Alabama at the time?
It was Bill Curry. It was Bill Curry's very first year.
He seemed like he was kind of a stern guy.
He was.
Like a by the book guy.
He was, and he would not remember me at all or recognize me.
But Derek Simpson. Yeah. Right. Wait, number 23. We got it. Yeah.
That's right. And so, but he was, but I will tell you that they treated all the walk-ons and all their scholarships when I was there, just like you're all part of the team. I went to all the team meetings. You know, I got to go to all the practices and got to, you know, of course, work out and run with the team.
Well,
that's all
how did the scholarship players treat you? I would imagine what I would imagine is not good.
Oh no, it was actually here's what was great is there was a strength and conditioning coach named Rich Wingo, and Rich Wingo was on the goal line stand for Alabama against Penn State. And
what year was that? 70?
That was like in 77. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he was the strength and conditioning coach, and he truly, I honestly did not think you could get tired by running. I mean, we ran and we worked out just nonstop, but I got to where I could imitate him. And the scholarship players that were there thought that was the greatest. So they started calling me, you know, Little Wingo. And so once I got in on that, then I was fine. You know, so they was like, I want you to call my friend and tell him, you know, and act like Coach Wingo. And this is before caller ID, you know. And
no, that's funny.
So it was great. Yeah. But they treated me. I mean, they treated, you know, because there was only about 90 of us, you know, or maybe not even that, maybe 85 of us. So it's a small kind of group of guys, and but it was great. It was a wonderful experience.
Well, so you're there that whole summer?
I'm there that whole summer.
Like, do you like, most college kids start August. That's when they show up. You showed up, I assume, early.
Yeah, showed up earlier. Showed up like in July, and then we running and working out, and then we had all that fall practice.
Right.
No,
are you a little fearful going in, knowing these are some big studs that you're,
No, yeah, it was. That was another reason kind of why I walked off. I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys are just,
Did you ever get hit? Did you ever get hit?
Oh my gosh, yes.
To remember?
Oh yeah. Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, I was out there with truly icons at Alabama football. Derek Thomas was out there.
Wow.
Bobby Humphrey was there. Gene Jelks, was out there. Howard Cross.
Howard Cross is from this area.
From this area.
Okay.
Lamont Russell. I mean, we had some, some incredible football players, but all of them were really nice. But I just remember we would have to do. I was a defensive back, and I was on the scout team, of course, and they would on Wednesdays do kind of the screen day, and the screen day would be. The whole offensive line goes to one side, and they throw to the running back, and then
you mean to run screens?
To run screens, yeah.
Got it.
And then, so I would be the defensive back trying to come up to tackle the running back, and then the big Alabama offensive line would be there hitting, the 5'11" Grissom Tiger. So,
what's in my head right now is Rudy. There you are. This guy's playing like, remember Vince Vaughn? This guy's playing like it's the Super Bowl.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's
exactly what's wrong with you.
I would say that I was Rudy, but I just never made it on the field, and I never got, taken off the field, carried off the field. So,
well, you know what I tell folks? So being from Chicago, if you're Catholic and you grew up in Chicago, you're a Notre Dame fan. In no way. I guess like you and Vanderbilt, there's no way I could have gotten into Notre Dame out of high school.
Right.
And, but I was a huge Notre Dame fan. I still am. That's the school. Right. So that movie, Rudy, it's spot on. Correct. It's how it is there.
Oh yeah.
But
I love that movie. I think that movie.
It's unbelievable. That feeling, the ND feeling, which is not politically correct here, obviously, right in Alabama.
Right.
So, all right. So you're there, and now we're first semester. So do you get your grades and then say that's it?
Yeah, and then I could have stayed for the spring semester for spring ball,
right?
And then long story, but I tried out for an organization in Alabama called the Capstone Men.
Okay,
and it's they pick 12 men, and then they have 12 women. It's called the Capstone Men and Women. And I tried out for it, and I made it. And you're kind of the official ambassador of the university, and you get to give tours of the campus. You're on the field during the games.
Oh, that's cool.
You travel with the team.
Hey, there's our little Wingo.
That's right.
Why is he in his uniform?
And so And so once I made that, then I got in, which is it's still doing, and that organization is still just doing great.
Wow.
And so once I got involved in that, then I just started saying I've got to make my grades,
right.
and start taking the LSAT, the law school admission test, and then we went through it, and I had a great college career. Loved it, loved everything about Alabama, and loved all my friends, and had a incredible time there.
Well, how could you not? Like, I think I've told you, my wife is Auburn, now all three of our sons at this present time are at Alabama. And believe me, I got college bills times 3.
Right.
It's an amazing place.
It's
amazing.
Yeah, they have done an incredible job really since after I left, and just really in the last 20 years.
Everything about it is right. It's thought through, and it's right. It's how do we promote, education and quality education and good students, and how do we nurture them? It's amazing to me.
I agree. I agree. And they've changed the appearance and they've built incredible buildings, and just they've poured money into recruiting, and now there's more out-of-state students than
and no wonder
students.
Why when they see that. I think I've told you my 2 youngest sons are in ATO fraternity, one of those huge houses, and where Alabama's so smart, as I understand it, they own the land. They lease it to these fraternities for like 100 years at $1 a year, but they still own the land. And if something happens, now they own the building that was paid for by the external fraternity.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's, no wonder why they're monster houses.
Brilliant.
So you kind of focus, and I assume grades get better.
Yeah, grades get better, and I start doing really well. Unfortunately, I did not take the LSAT as serious as I should have. And back when I was applying, that would have been, I graduated in 91. This is going to, the only your old people are going to remember this, but LA law was really extremely popular. And that year, the law school, admission, the applications went through the roof.
You're saying what's the luck?
Right. So I mean, and I'm not saying that if it wasn't for LA law, it's not the reason, but I did not get in. And I wanted to go to Alabama so bad. And
so what do you do that year?
So that year, number one, I had to take a breath. I had to realize that life's going to go on, and I came back and I moved in with my aunt who lived in Hoover, Alabama, and there wasn't even a Hoover then, but it moved in. She lived out by the Galleria, and I took this course on the LSAT. And I said, I'm going to give it, one more shot. And I went and took the test, and thank goodness I did great for me.
Right.
And I knew with my grades and my activities I were involved in and this LSAT score that finally got me over the hump, then I had a good feeling that I would get in with that. But, I kind of was in a panic mode. If I need to get it, I need to get in. And then
so this is the whole year you're doing that?
Yeah.
Living in Hoover?
So well, for that first part, and that was in the fall, and then I moved to Atlanta, and I lived with my brother. I have an older brother, and I waited tables in Atlanta. And looking back, I probably should have taken maybe 2 or 3 years off. But I had a blast.
But in retrospect, it's those humbling experiences where you're kind of down at your lowest. I mean, that's, then they say, and it's a trite saying, but that's where you grow. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
that's where you appreciate things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a growing time for me because a lot of things had fallen my way. I had a great parents and great brothers and sisters, and
now, young man, it's time you become a little humble.
That's right. That's right. And it was humbling. And then, but when I got in, it was just this feeling of so much joy, and relief, and getting to tell my dad that I got in, and and it's just great. It was just was a great feeling.
Now, so how many brothers and sisters do you have?
I have an older brother and an older sister. Yeah.
And lawyers or not lawyers?
No, I have my brother is a very artistic and just incredibly, talented musical wise. And he's always kind of been in that industry, in that business. And he's always lived in Atlanta, and he works with big companies that do sound systems for big restaurants, big developments, whatever. And then my sister, who was great. She's married to Tim Howard, who is a family doctor here in town, and she's taught school at Hampton Cove and Huntsville High, and now she's teaching at the St. Joseph, the high school, teaches high school math.
Oh yeah. So and neither of them had any desire to. You were the only one in the family.
I'm the only one, and my brother, probably would have been a good lawyer, but my sister would have been a crazy good lawyer, just because she just acts just like my dad.
Did your dad kind of recruit you to see, hey, I'm down to the last one?
No.
Or was he kind of like, whatever, you guys do whatever it is you want to do?
I was so gung-ho about being a lawyer. I think he was just like hands off. I'm just going to
slow it down.
I'm just going to let him just, he was just like, I'm going to just let it, play out. And so,
so how old are you when you start law school?
So I was 22. Right. Yeah.
So now I have 3 boys, right? And my oldest Jack he's 24, going on 25. But I'm such a believer, just kind of talking about that age of being a boy and you sitting a year out, where you could have actually gone off the rails pretty easily. Absolutely. Believe me, that Atlanta life could have been changed on a dime.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm a huge fan. I don't know if you subscribe to this of national service. I mean, I would love to see. So I was in the military, and I don't say it that way. I'm like national service. I don't care what you do. 2 years military, 2 years Peace Corps, city year, whatever. I'm 47, and I can look back and say it now, but I just had this. If somebody at that time would have said, I want you to spend 2 years doing national service, I would have, wait a minute, but looking back, it would have been an incredible experience. It would have been invaluable.
It would have been invaluable. I mean, and if somebody would have just said, not only can you not go to law school, but a requirement that you're going to give back and do something. Number one is I think it would make me a better person and a better lawyer because.
And I don't mean, when people listen to this, I don't mean hanging out and partying. I mean doing something meaningful.
No, I agree. No, I totally agree. I totally agree, and I'm all for that too. I think that's a fabulous idea, and it's I don't know if the younger generation would believe how important it is.
But you know what? That's the thing when I always tell, everything I do right is predicated upon a mistake, right? Mistake was made. It won't be made again. This is why I do this or that. Right. But, I'm kind of like, what do you lose by 2 years when you look back and just that growth period would be,
Oh, I totally agree.
But here's what I was going to say that I kind of lost my train of thought for a second, but it would have to be everyone, right? It couldn't be hey, young man, no, we're going to keep you. You get to start college early, but everyone else, it's all or nothing, right?
Absolutely. I after my junior year of college and after I graduated from law school, I backpacked in Europe for about 6 or 7 weeks both times. And what was interesting
did you go alone or was
I went with just some friends from we'd all branch out and we'd go in different directions, but both trips, I met people from Australia, and they would be like, "We're doing this for a year," and it was almost like it was a requirement. It was like a rite of passage for some of these young people in Australia, and they were all over the place. I mean, they were everywhere we would go. They were like, "Yeah, we're from Australia. Yeah, we're doing our year. And I thought,
you're like, I only got 6 weeks.
I know, yeah, right. I'm trying to, right. And the stories that they were telling when they were spreading out, getting to travel through Europe and throughout the world for a year. I mean, it was it'd be invaluable. So.
Well, with my youngest son, we went through Grissom, through high school. It's a poor man's trip to Europe, right?
Right.
So I've never been to Italy, and I'm half Italian. Yeah. And we went to Italy his junior spring break at his request.
Right.
Most kids want to go to the beach. He's like, "Hey, let's go to Italy." I'm like, "Sounds great," and it was amazing. But they have this. I guess in the 1800s, they called it the Grand Tour of Italy that all young, well-to-do Europeans would do.
Yeah.
Believe me, I could see that. I'd love to do it again.
Wouldn't Italy just pretty?
That was amazing.
Isn't it incredible?
Can't wait to go back.
That's just it's an incredible place. It really is. The people are just incredible. Yeah, the food is just
it was all good. Right,
I love it.
So now in law school, so you do pretty well in law school.
I do.
By now you're kind of focused. Hey, I got to drive myself.
Right. I was still in the back of my mind that I'm going to go back and work with my dad. So I wasn't trying to. I worked hard, but I wanted to make, focus on the things that I'd be doing. But I thought law school was great.
What was your dad do? So when did he leave the DA's office?
So he left in 1980.
Okay.
And so.
And what does he do when he?
All right. So when he gets out, he does, criminal defense work, and he does almost all court-appointed criminal defense work.
Something you said, so he was a police officer for a while, then a DA, so he cannot be that happy he knows it.
Right.
So how does he feel about being on the other side? He sounds like a Law and Order guy, at least initially.
Yeah. And I think that a lot of people that knew my dad would say he was probably a better prosecutor than he was a defense lawyer, but I only, as an adult, knew him as a criminal defense lawyer, and there was nobody that I met that was more committed to making sure that the process was followed and that the state had to prove their case. There would be times when you would read the paper, and I said this for years. I said, but if you read the paper and say, who in the world could defend somebody like that? That was usually my dad. He told all the judges he wanted to be appointed to all the capital murder cases.
Wow.
And he loved it. He just...
I assume he had prosecuted... Well, he did prosecute capital murder cases,
he
right?
Did.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And my dad was just such an incredible guy. He was a true Renaissance man. He could paint like a... unbelievable painter. And
you've got a number of paintings in your building, right?
I do, yeah. He was a painter. He wrote some books. He wrote a book called The Sins of Madison County. 6 lynchings that occurred right on the courthouse square that he researched and wrote the stories about. And then he wrote another book called Murder in the Heart of Dixie. And in Alabama, you have capital murder cases versus the penalty phase. And they find out if they're guilty of capital murder. And if they are, the jury comes back with a recommendation of life in prison or capital murder or death or the death penalty. And in Madison County, there was 13 cases where the jury came back unanimously for the death penalty, and he wrote a book about those 13 cases. And he did a picture book of called Huntsville Then and Now of
I have that book.
Yeah. And so in addition to representing some of the hardest criminal cases, he had this real artistic mind. That's where I think my brother, gets that. He was a great photographer, a great painter, a great writer.
Where does he have the time?
I know. And it was just, there was just so many crazy things that he would do. I mean, like he was the only person, and you got to think back when he would take pictures, there was no digital pictures and, and there was no way to download it. There was no computer. Right. And he was
a lot more labor intensive.
Right. So he was the only person that I knew, and we used to give him such a hard time as kids, is that he would take pictures in the morning. He would take it to the 1 hour photo, in the mall. Right. He would go back and get them, bring them back, and then label them and put them in the photo album all on the same day.
Man, that's crazy. People will do that over years, right?
I know.
Well, so when he leaves the DA, so I talked about before you got here, I have this little introduction. I talked about the building you're in. So your dad bought that building, right?
Okay, so the building that we're in
is right across from the Madison County Courthouse.
Right across from the courthouse. And in 1980, he walked across and he bought it from a guy named Alvin Blackwell, who was a great real estate kind of a icon here in Huntsville. And on the front of the building had big black letters that said Blackwell. And he kind of had an office upstairs, and then
Mr. Blackwell did.
Mr. Black, yeah, okay. It was just like almost just a shell.
Well, without asking the price, I assume it was downtown was not nice at that point.
I'm thinking that I don't even remember, but I think he bought it for maybe less than $50,000.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean,
I was never here, obviously. Then,
it was the boarded up windows.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Nobody had been in there in years, and then he came in and he redid the bottom.
Well, so how old is that building? Because it was
built in 1870, which is it's on the historical register, and
that's amazing.
It's it really is just a fabulous building. But Dad knew that when I got in law school, he knew that I was going to come back, or that was my goal.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to redo the upstairs. And the upstairs was just a shell of an office. There was nothing up there, no walls. There was no. And he brought this artistic mind. He said, I want to turn it to make it look like a turn of the century law office. And
is that right?
Yeah. So he built it with this. He wanted people to walk in and it looked like it's been there for,
No, I said in my introduction, it looks like it's the 1840s.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
So and that's the feeling that you get because he took down the plaster that was on the wall, and it's this crazy colored brick that's there. There's some curved brick. I'll tell you a great story is there was indoor-outdoor carpet upstairs in our place, and we ripped that up, and it had some plywood, and we spent a lot of time leveling it. And I said, Dad, I'd give anything if we could get some old heart pine floors, these heart pine floors, because that would go with the period. He said, oh, that'd be great. And so I called this guy from Birmingham.
Son, we're not made of money.
right. So I called this guy from Birmingham, and he came all the way up. And while he came upstairs, and he had a tape measure, and he started tape measuring. And he said, when was the building built? And we told him. Right. And he made the statement, like, have you looked underneath this plywood to see what's underneath there? And we're like, no. And he said, well, let's pull up a little bit. And we were so upset because we had just spent all this time leveling it. I'm like, don't pull it up. But anyway, So we pulled it up, and he said, you've got heart pine underneath here. All you got to do is sand it. And so we were about to pay to put heart pine on top of heart pine. But anyway, we pulled all that up.
And that wood would have gone back probably to the building's inception.
Yeah.
Wow.
So the upstairs and the downstairs floor is the original floor. And
that's crazy.
And they just don't build floors like that. It's beautiful. I mean, the floors are great, and the whole office is great, but that was his plan.
Right.
And so,
So sorry. No, you. So well, I
right.
still want to talk about this building, but I also mentioned you have a mock courtroom, right? In your basement.
Down in we have a mock courtroom down in the basement, which is great.
It's great for trial preparation, right? To kind of smooth out the kinks and get things ready. It's brilliant.
It is, and we have clients down there. There's a place that they can sit, and really it helps to. Instead of talking to someone across the table,
right.
we'll be standing up, asking them questions while they're sitting in it,
right.
and there could be people sitting there and critiquing them, and it helps us. It helps us a lot,
right,
to have that space.
No, that's brilliant. So you're out of law school now. Is your dad practicing with anyone, or is he?
He started practicing with Fulton Hamilton, who's a lawyer here in town, and a guy named Tom Ryan, and they were great lawyers, and they're good friends, and they decided to kind of go their own ways. And my dad just was by himself for years, and so excuse me, and so he had another friend named Bob Willison who kind of worked with my dad and was a great researcher and a great writer, and then when my dad came in, he said, it's got to be Simpson and Simpson,
right?
Because that was the goal,
right,
and
right.
That's what
I got this guy coming.
That's right. And so I was blessed, walk into this law firm, and he was trying to give me his practice as fast as I could take it. But we tried so many criminal cases.
Well, when you started, or or I guess when I got here, that's how I knew you, that you did a lot of criminal defense.
Yeah, well, that's well, because my dad was appointed to all these capital murder cases, and all those cases have got to be tried, and so we were in the courtroom a lot. And it was a great, looking back, it was a wonderful experience for me, because it forced me to go strike a jury. It forced me to try cases. It forced me to try to get my feet underneath me in the courtroom. It forced me to think on my feet.
Right.
And my dad, he threw me to the wolves, and that's, and I tried my first murder case 30 days out of law school.
Wow.
And he sat there and kept his mouth shut.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, so when do you start getting into a plaintiff's personal injury
This
work?
is so great. So I was doing all this court appointed work and I had a client who said, my mother has been involved in a bad wreck and we don't know what to do. And I said, I don't know what to do.
I don't want to tell you this, but
I don't know what to do.
You're talking to the wrong guy.
That's right. But I said, let me see what I can do. Let me get some of these answers. And I went and asked my dad. I said, Dad, I've got this client. I've been appointed to represent. His mother's been involved in a bad wreck. What should I do? And my dad said, I just came from a seminar, and there was a guy named Barton Warren who was talking at a seminar about car wrecks. I'm going to set up a lunch with you two, and I'm going to make that introduction. And I rolled my eyes, like, Dad, don't, I'm a grown man. I don't set up a lunch date.
A date.
I don't need a lunch date. Can I just call him? Like, no, son.
I'll spend 5 minutes on the phone.
That's right. Can I just call him? Like, no, we're going to set up a lunch.
Right.
So we ended up going to lunch at the Old Heritage Club.
Right.
And my dad, of course, dominated the conversation and told him why he was there, whatever. And Barton was gracious and so kind. And Barton and I worked on that case, and that was, almost, 20 years ago.
Right.
And then we worked on 2 or 3 more and worked on others. And then we realized that we had a lot in common. And then my practice kind of started veering toward the personal injury practice. And
well, Barton's such a good guy.
He is.
Well, just talented as all get out.
He is, we've been real lucky. We've been practicing law 13 years and never had a crossword, which is great.
It's rare.
Which is great. Yeah. But,
well, that's whether you want to hear this or not, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
That's how you guys are viewed. 2 very talented lawyers, and you seem like you're about the same age,
Right.
And it's good to see. It's just heartwarming to see that.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Yeah,
that's great. And we
good guys and great lawyers.
Well,
or great guys, great lawyers.
Listen, that's what I think about you. Every time I drive by this beautiful building of yours, I'm like, great lawyers.
It's not an 1840s old law school or old law building.
But it's beautiful. It's great.
No, but that's good. So it's just you and Barton practice together now, right?
Yep. And and which is
well. So it was you, Barton, and your dad.
Well, what happened is when my dad retired in 2003. That's when Barton came over.
Gotcha.
So he came over to the building to where we were, and so Barton is downstairs and I'm upstairs, and it's worked out great.
And so you kind of transitioned from criminal work.
I did. I just kept doing personal injury work, and we have never advertised. We have never had a billboard, and never had a commercial. Not that there is anything wrong with the people that do it, but we. Number one is I think my dad would have
right, old school.
Oh, yeah, he would have driven him crazy, and we've just kind of lived and died by referrals from other lawyers and old clients, and we've just been extremely blessed that the phone keeps ringing. So and in that part,
Well, you've got a great staff too. I mean,
we
just
do.
all very competent, very squared away, and they know what they're doing.
I really do. We do. We have a great staff, and just about everybody there has been there for a long time.
Right.
Sonia, my paralegal, she started working for my dad when I was in high school.
Is that right?
Yeah, so she's been there for
that's amazing.
Yeah. She's been in there almost 30 years.
Right. That's amazing.
And she hates me. I mean, she's so sick of me. So.
Right. Take a lesson from your dad, young man. That's funny. Well, and I had mentioned before you got here, I was mentioning that. So you also are a sports agent now.
Yeah, I am. So I got to tell you, this is a great story. So several years ago, like I was maybe 2 or 3 years out of law school, based just on my football history and whatever. I've always been around it, and I loved it. I thought how great it would be to learn how to be a sports agent.
Right.
So I downloaded from the NFLPA, what it takes to be an agent. And I really wish I would have kept it, because it said to be a certified NFL agent, you have to have graduated from college.
Okay.
You have to
check.
You've had to graduate from law school. You have to be in good standing, in your bar, have to have all these references, or you have to have excellent negotiation skills. So I thought that was just like one of the great
check.
So anyway, I never filled out the application. And then finally about 5 years ago, maybe 5-6 years ago, I just said, I'm going to do it. And you have to fill out an application. You put your references, and they actually call my references, which I've never, and they called me and said, someone from the NFLPA has called to check on you, and what are you doing? And said, I'm trying to be a certified NFL agent. Then if you pass that, then they say, okay, we're going to let you go to the seminar in DC, and it's like $2,500.
I'm sure we don't pay your way.
Right. And you go to this seminar, and they give you a test on the collective bargaining agreement at the end, and you have to pass the test, or you have to come back and do it again. And the pass rate is like 60%.
Right.
So 40%
like a quasi bar exam, right?
That's exactly right. And so, and it was the weirdest feeling, because it was like, break the tab, and circle in the little bubbles. I haven't done that in forever. And so fortunately I passed, and then you have to get special liability insurance, and then you have to register with the state. And then the NFLPA says, oh, and by the way, if you don't get a client within 3 years, you have to come back and start over and do it again. So I got involved in that. I had some players
here from the state.
Yeah, and some would get cut, but I didn't have anybody on a team. And then the final year, my third year of not having a player contract, I ended up getting some players that got picked up, but the one player that got picked up that people know about is a great young man named Malcolm Butler. He played at West Alabama. He was working out in the
Believe me, everyone in the state knows who he is now.
Right. And he worked out at this little gym in Tuscaloosa called JDPI Sports. And I know Johnny Jackson, who owns JDPI Sports. And he kept telling me, he said, I promise you this guy can play.
He's the real deal.
Malcolm can play. And I came down and met with this young man who was so humble and so nice. And he just said, I just need a chance. I need a chance. Sure. And anyway, long story short, he ended up getting a tryout. He wasn't a drafted, and he wasn't an undrafted free agent, but he ended up being a tryout with the Patriots, and ended up making the 53-man squad, which was a big deal.
Sure.
And it helped me because that means I didn't have to go back and start over.
Right.
And so he made the 53-man squad, and I was so excited. And then his first year, he played sparingly. There were some games he was a healthy scratch. There's 53 players on a team,
right.
but they only dressed 47. So those
I didn't know that. Sounds like that's some of your studying.
Yeah.
You learned
that's right. So there's 6 of them that either could be out injured, or they could be what's called a healthy scratch, meaning there's nothing wrong with them. We're just not going to let them dress. That's never a good thing. That's never a good thing to have. And there were 2 games. His first year, he was a healthy scratch. But the playoffs came around, and they started using him more. And then
And where were they using him at?
He was a defensive back,
right?
And they would just bring him in on certain packages,
right?
And they played the Colts before the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, and he played a lot in that game, and it was exciting to see all that come together. Right. And then he told me before the Super Bowl against the Seahawks that on some plays, depending on how they play, that he's getting in, and he did not play the first half of the Super Bowl
at all. Was he on special teams?
He was on special teams. He was on, and this is crazy. This will kind of tell you how excited my family was. Is that he was on the punt team of the Super Bowl in the first half. I was so excited.
And this is New England versus Seattle.
Yeah.
What was that, like 3? Is it 3 years ago? 2 years ago?
Yeah, 3 years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
Coming up on 3 years, and he was running down on a punt, and I paused the TV and made my whole family come in and watch Malcolm run down on a punt. Little did I know what was about to happen in the second half. So then the second half, they made some personnel changes, and Malcolm came in and made some incredible plays. And then, of course, the interception heard around the world. He stepped in front of an interception with about 20 seconds left. Right. And I think it's the best play ever in Super Bowl history. But,
it's got to be top 2, top 3 at least.
So that was really exciting just to watch, because Malcolm was he went from being a great football player that nobody knew about,
right?
To being a great football player that everybody knew about.
No, and he handles New England. He's the number 1 cover guy now, right?
Yeah, he is. And so the next year, last year he was an All-Pro.
Right.
He made the Pro Bowl. This year he's second team All-Pro. Sunday they've got a game against the Steelers,
right.
and he's got to cover Antonio
That'll be interesting
Brown.
how that goes when with all that talk from that video that was shown.
Oh, I know. And then
so who will he cover Sunday?
He's going to cover Antonio Brown, who is probably one of the best receivers in the league. And then what's really neat about Sunday is that he'll be covering Antonio Brown, but Antonio Brown and Malcolm did a Visa commercial this year. That's kind of a nationwide Visa commercial.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it.
And so that's great.
That's funny.
Yeah, and they're buddies, but it's all business. So
that's that's really exciting.
And then I've got
it makes watching Sunday football for you just phenomenal, right?
And then I've got another player who is named Chester Rogers, who went to Lee, and he's a great story. He walked on at Grambling as a wide receiver, got a scholarship at Grambling, ended up getting undrafted free agent to the Colts. He made the 53-man squad, and he had an incredible first year. 19 catches. He was the punt returner for the Colts, and he's coming back strong next year. So
you know what I like about what you do is that, I mean, these, I'm sure these folks realize it now, but I mean, they're in great hands with you.
Oh,
and
so
you do
nice.
it. I mean, you do it because of the thrill. I mean, it's not. This is not your livelihood, right? You've got a thriving practice.
Right.
No, it's really. I mean, I'm happy for them, and I'm happy for you.
Oh, I love it. Thank you. That's so kind. And I love it. And it's a lot of fun. And I have a 7-year-old son who thinks his dad's got the cool job.
Finally, my dad's doing something worthwhile with his life.
That's right.
That's
right.
funny.
Yeah.
Well, so, and you kind of, so you represent now a couple more players?
I've got 2 that are in the NFL, and I've represented, several players. It's just so dang hard to get them on a team and to get a look and for them to stay there. The one thing I love about the NFL is it's a $10 billion plus business, and it's the only business that I know where it's that much money and there's really no good old boy network. I
Right.
mean, if you can play, you're going to play. If you can't play, you're not going to play. So no, there's not a lot of players that are playing because their dad knows somebody or, because honestly, when Malcolm, made it to the Patriots, I had no contacts at the Patriots and he had no contacts at the Patriots. And the reason why he made the team is because he could play.
Skill, right?
Yeah, skill. Right. Yeah. And so,
now, do you give him some tips from your old defensive back days? Malcolm, listen, when you were in that cover 2, I noticed something. What you're going to want to do.
He would just,
he doesn't want to hear it. Listen,
he would just stare at me.
You were the walk-on. I mean, I got it. I'll figure it out, Derek.
That's right. That's exactly
funny.
Right. Yeah.
Now, well, you do a lot with our bar association, right?
I do. We really do. We have a great bar here in Madison County.
It's a very collegial, even though we can all be adversarial with one another just by the nature of the practice, but it's very collegial.
It is. And like, for example, Mobile maybe has 3,000 or 4,000 lawyers. So does Montgomery, and Birmingham has just thousands of lawyers in their bar. And, our bar is still below 1,000,
right?
Which is great. Don't tell anybody,
right,
but it's a fabulous bar. Fortunately, I've been blessed and honored I'll be the president-elect for the Madison County Bar next year.
So that looks like that's a 3 or 4 year stint, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you're president-elect, like
this year I'm president-elect, and then I'll be president next year. And then you kind of
past president, right?
Right.
Past president for council, have post hoc council.
That's right.
But
we do. We have a fabulous bar, and if there are any lawyers of thinking about where they could practice, I would give Huntsville a strong,
a serious look.
Yeah, it's a great town, but we have a great bar, and we have great judges. We have great judges.
I agree.
Yeah,
absolutely. And a lot of these, I mean, to me, a lot of the judges who've been elected and appointed, I mean, are the right choices.
I agree.
They're good people, and they have a job to do, but they're just genuinely good people.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, we have great judges in this area, and in Madison County, and in Limestone County, and in Morgan County. We have some really, really good judges.
Right, considerate, thoughtful, and we're fortunate. But yeah. So, what about you? Also do a good bit of volunteer work, and with Madison County Volunteer Legal Program. And again, the reason I'm kind of saying this, not to sound like an advertisement, but I'm saying that you're doing the bar, I'm kind of like to myself in my head, I'm like, what am I doing? I feel like I'm swamped, and I'm like, what? This guy's doing all this other stuff. But
well, what you're doing is this right here. I think this is great. This is so good. I mean, and I'm so jealous that I didn't do this first. I mean, I think this is wonderful.
That I'd be asking you, Derek, can I be on? But no,
I've been calling you first.
But just doing this is this is kind of more. I mentioned to a lawyer from Chicago that I talked to. So I grew up on Chicago radio.
Yeah.
And it's not Howard Stern, but there's this guy that kind of says he was Howard Stern before Howard Stern, but not that blue. But when I grew up in high school, that's all we listened to.
Sure.
So I'm this is, I had a buddy of mine actually 2 points to this. I had a buddy of mine that I went to college with, and we went to, or it was high school and college at Arizona. We left Chicago. Yeah. I was going to play football at a very small school till I, had an epiphany that I'm too slow, too small, too stupid, that ain't going to work. Right. And I'm not going to make it beyond that. So I asked this guy, well, where are you going to school? He's like, I'm going to Arizona. His folks were moving there from Chicago. And I'm like, well, it sounds good. I'll go too.
Right. Nice.
But fast forward, we would, during college, during our weekends for maybe a year period, we would walk around with a tape recorder. Just kind of stupid, fraternity, you can imagine what we, talking to people, talking to girls. But, and the reason I bring that up, so my buddy passed away unexpectedly like 3 years ago. I mean, we were really close. And, it's like anything else, you kind of lose contact. He was still living in Tucson, but I don't have those tapes anymore. I would give anything for it. And so one of my thoughts was with this, because when I have these discussions, when you and I talk separately, I'm like, I want it for posterity's sake,
Absolutely. Well, and I'll keep it, and I love it. But anyway, I don't think people realize what a great thing that you're doing here. I just think that I think it's wonderful, and it really is. I told you I was excited about doing it, and I'm honored.
Well, you're a big get, Derek. So I'm glad you came in and talked to me. But yeah, like I said, I appreciate you talking to us, and And, one thing I hadn't asked you, your family. So I know you're married too. As you've told me, a smarter lawyer than you.
Man. Listen, they say outkicked your coverage but I married, my, elementary school sweetheart. We knew each other in elementary school. I was attracted to her in elementary school. I, was in love with her at elementary school, and we, it's what you can, in fourth and fifth grade, we dated, or, we went steady. She went to
you say a little promise ring light or what?
That's right. And she went to Huntsville Middle, and I stayed at White Spring Middle. Then she went to Birmingham Southern, and I went to Alabama. And then she laid out a year as well. And then she went to law school at Alabama, and I went to law school at Alabama. And so that's when we reconnected, and we were in the same section. And I was, I was crazy about her, and she wanted to have nothing to do with me. Right. So like, please leave me alone. I just wore her down. I just absolutely wore her down. And so she practiced law, did labor and employment law, and for years. And truly, and I say this, even if she wasn't my wife, one of the best legal writers I've ever met and read. And she can say in like a sentence, which takes me 30 pages. Right. And she's smart, and she's just crazy. She's crazy smart, and really beautiful. And then, and we have 3 kids. We have a 15-year-old, and we have a girl, and Kate, and then we have a 13-year-old daughter, Jane, who's in 7th grade. And then we have a little boy, Will, who's 7.
Gotcha.
2nd grade. And
now, how do you like those teen years?
Oh, Kate, listen, you may listen to this. I want you to know she's gonna do great. She's gonna do great. Once she gets out of these
years, I've been there. It's tough.
It is.
Yeah, my wife Patty and I. So our youngest just left this for he's a freshman at Alabama now, and so now they're all gone. And it's there are times, it's weird when they come home. I like, so we have this. It's just us, and I can do whatever I want. I can do this. I can read. I can write the stuff I really want to do, but then they come home. So now, they just left again, and I'm down again. I'm oh man.
Oh yeah.
So it's like, I want it one way or the other.
Right. I know, like right now when I come home, it's crazy, and people are running here, and we're going to basketball and taking them to dance, and as crazy as it is, I know that I'm going to miss that. I know that I'll miss it because it goes by so fast. I mean, Kate just turned 15 this week, and she has her driver's permit. Sure. And it's just like,
blink of an eye. Yeah, she'll be in school, in college, 3 years?
I know, it's just a blink of an eye. It really is.
No, does your son play football?
He does. He plays football, and he loves it.
Well, let's talk about that. So he's 7, right?
He's 7, yeah. So
how do you feel about that? I guess let's do it this way. And I'm saying this because I work out a couple times a week. And did you ever see that show Friday Night Tykes?
Oh yeah.
All right. So I taped that. I love it. I used to watch it with my sons. So I just watched this episode today. I mean, that is nuts when I see that. And those youth teams, they hit more than college teams hit like the whole year.
I know,
right? Or pro teams.
He was first on like a flag football team,
sure.
And then this was his first year in helmets and full pads. But it was, just great coaching, and honestly, the kids this age they're learning how to tackle completely different. I mean, when I was growing up, it was, you put your head down and you spear them.
Spear them, yeah, that's fine. Don't worry about that.
Right. And and they're teaching them to keep their head up, but of course, I'm extremely, leery of the head injuries that are coming out of it, and but I think that
but he loves it.
He loves it, and he knows all the names and their stats, and
I imagine he's wearing Malcolm Butler's jersey a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Son, you got to wear something else. You've had it on 7 days in a row. So. That's right. Well, listen, Derek, I've taken up enough of your time.
It's been great.
You're a busy guy, so I know you got a lot to do.
Thank you. Listen, thank you so much. And I am so jealous that you came up with this first, because I love
Derek,
it.
You got a billion good ideas. I got one. But listen, appreciate you coming by, Derek. And like I said, your work is superlative, and the work you and Barton do. So happy I know you. And, I consider it an honor that
you're a great friend.
Today.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Derek. Appreciate it. So that was Derek Simpson. Like I said, really good guy, great spirit. People who are his clients, whether it's for personal injury, criminal defense to the extent he still does that, and certainly athletes that he represents. I mean, just people are just in great hands with him. Just a great spirit. And it's no wonder he's the incoming president of the Bar Association here in Madison County. But just a great guy, and I'm really fortunate I can call him a friend. So again, appreciate you listening. And it's bondandbotus.com as far as sponsorship, BONDANDBOTES.com, or securityclearancedefenselawyer.com. And again, Bankruptcy, we wrote the book on it. It's available at Amazon or at bondandbotusbankruptcybook.com. Appreciate everyone listening, and we'll have another episode soon. Thank you. The Alabama Bar requires the following. No representation is made that the quality of legal services to be performed is greater than the quality of legal services performed by other lawyers. Please also see the bottom page of every page of our website for the disclaimer. You can click on that for the disclaimer for every state where we practice.